We've already talked about how to graph sine and cosine curves. This is just kind of checking a box off for us. The amplitude, stretching or shrinking, that's what we've called it. Just kind of how tall the graph's going to be. Phase shift, moving it left or right. Vertical shift, moving it up or down. Period. I kind of think about period as how stretched out the accordion is. So normally it takes 2 pi from 0 to 2 pi for us to make one little part of the graph, and then the graph starts repeating. Well, I said the distance between two repeating points. So whenever the graph starts repeating is how long a period is. So we're going to take each of these. So amplitude is A, and phase shift is negative C over B. So I've got all these letters over here for you. And vertical shift is D. Period is 2 pi over B. And let's go from there. So let's look at this one. Amplitude on this one is A equals 1. It's that number right out front. There's just a 1 out there. Amplitude on the one on the right, amplitude is 2. Vertical shift on the left side, vertical shift D on this one is 1. And on this one, D equals negative 3. Phase shift is negative C over B. So negative C over B, we've got A right here, B right there, C right there, and D right there. So negative C over B would be negative pi over 2 over 1, which is just negative pi over 2. Phase shift over here, negative C over B is equal to negative pi over 4 over 1, which is just positive pi over 4. Period is 2 pi over b, so this would be 2 pi over b, which is 2 pi over 1 in this case, just 2 pi. So we haven't like horizontally stretched or shrink it. This would be 2 pi over b again. So this one in this case is same thing, 2 pi over 1, which is 2 pi. Okay. Let's slide down. Let's look at, I don't know, this one. Yeah, let's look at this one. Something that I haven't mentioned is that amplitude is always positive. Sometimes we get a negative, like on this one. On the right side, we have a negative cosine. The amplitude on this one would still be 1. It's not negative. The negative's only telling me that it's reflecting over the x-axis. So just keep that in mind. When you do amplitude, it's always going to be positive. So I've got amplitude on this one is just 1. Amplitude on this one is 1/2. So shrinking that one a little bit. Vertical shift here is positive 5. Vertical shift here is negative 1. Phase shift is negative C over B. So that would be negative pi over 2. So that's negative pi over 2. Phase shift over here, negative C over B. That's negative 2 pi over 3 over 3. And I think that ends up being 2 pi over 9 when you punch that in your calculator. Period is 2 pi over b. So that would be 2 pi over 2. That's just pi. This is 2 pi over b. This would be 2 pi over 3, and you can't simplify that any. Let's do one more. So here an amplitude is 6. Amplitude over here is positive 1. So it's reflecting over the x-axis, but that negative does not affect my amplitude any. So vertical shift over here, D is negative 2. D over here is positive 7. Phase shift is negative C over B. So this would be negative 5 pi over 4. over b is 2. So I think that's 5 pi over 8 maybe. This is negative c over b. That would be negative pi over 3 over b, which is just positive pi over 3. Period over here is 2 pi over b. This is 2 pi over 2, which is just pi. And 2 pi over b, which is just 1 here, so just 2 pi.